Good afternoon, Crap to Cream. So I've now replaced the two oil lines, and at this time I have gone with the lines that don't have the thermostat in, because it reduces the risk of failure, because there's no more. I've reduced 4 connections. So anyway, they've been replaced. So if you're interested, this is where the failure was. You can see that. And it cracked. And I have to accept some responsibility for this, because when I put the P-clip on, I couldn't get the P-clip over the braid, so I just clamped on the hose. The other 3 connections I all connected on to the braid on top of the hose, and I think I reduced the structural strength of the line. No doubt somebody will point that out to me, but the hose is clearly not designed to take the pressure. And these are the only 2 bits that are out of the original engine. Everything else more or less has been replaced. So that's, yep, lesson learned. And while I was removing and tightening this up, I accidentally damaged or broke the line from here to the engine, which has to be removed as far as I'm concerned to get that pipe off, the main oil pipe on and off. So yeah, so I'm waiting for a new one now. In the meantime, I've been degreasing everything, so I've done the bonnet, under the bonnet now, trying to clear as much inside there as I can. I've washed all the belts down. I think that's about it really, but the oil got everywhere. I had to take all the brakes apart on this side, because the oil, as you might be able to see, got splashed inside here and got into the caliper. So I took all that apart and cleaned it all out. So that seems to be all right now. I've had another go at the brakes, and yeah, so this is now finished. So there's no more leaks on the rear brakes. I've had to, as I was mentioning before, I had to linish this part here and these 2 little bits here, so they didn't hit the inside of the Ross style wheel. The connection down the back there has not leaked since I put it back on again. And I have now fixed this side. I'm not taking the wheel off, but I fixed this side now because I had a leak on that side, which I think was in the caliper. So I've got a second set for my other MG, and I've taken the caliper out of that, and I've spoken to Frontline, David at Frontline, and he's been very supportive, and he's helping me fix my problems. So I've now fixed the center console in. There was a screw missing at the back in there, so I'll put that in there now. The orange wire, just in case you're wondering, that is for earthing out to adjust the time on the clock. And I had a good suggestion from someone, can't remember who now, to put a crossover across the isolator switch behind with a low amp fuse in it, so that I can just maintain the clock running without having to adjust it all the time. So I've been looking for 2 lugs big enough to go onto the terminals so that I can do that. I'm not getting any sponsorship or anything from the RAC, but getting the car home and everything else was fantastic. They were on time, delivered the car, all good, no damage done. Excellent service. So just a bit of a shout out for them. Not getting any support from them at all for doing this. So there you go. So that's it. So I've fixed the problem, fixed the oil leak, and I've washed everything down now. We won't need any rust treatment for a while, as the tilt tray deck won't either, because that had a fair bit of oil on it as well. Alright, I think that's about it now. So I won't waffle on too much, but that's the repair done. And yeah, I've now heard both discussions about the thermostat and getting the oil up to temperature, and then overcooling the oil by running it through the cooler and all that stuff. So right now, just to get me back on the road and get me to a point where I'm just enjoying the car for a little while, I'm going to run it without the thermostat in there, and then I'll see what I do. Oh, I've washed the air filter now. That got a bit soaked in oil, so that's been washed now and just drying in the sun outside. So I think that's about it. Yes, I've been having issues with bleeding the brakes, but Deb, my wife, she's been very patient and done a lot of brake bleeding with me, and now I've got success there, I do believe. Got a good pedal now. Alright, I think that's it. Oh, one thing, no coolant was lost. The level stayed in the coolant for the first 2 trips out, so that was good. And that was the other thing. So in here, down this fuse down here, this is the one that controls the fan, and it had a 10 amp fuse in it. Now I've done a bit of research, and that should be like a 15 to 20 amp fuse in there, so I put a 20 amp fuse in there. And a couple of the other ones, for some reason I put 7.5 amp fuses in there, and they didn't last either, so they blew. And yeah, so they're all now at either 15 or 20 amp, and I've got a spare fuse in the car, because that's where the trouble started, because the fan fuse blew, and then I got stuck in a couple of sets of traffic lights, and the engine temperature started to rise, therefore the oil temperature started to rise, and that's where the thermostat got involved in the oil, and that's when the hose split. So then, yeah, it was just a compounding error. So the fuse blew, engine got hot, because it was already a hot day. Then the thermostat came into play, and yeah, the hose split, and then oil went everywhere. So there you go. That's the tale of this adventure. No doubt there'll be a few more to come. So anyway, I'll keep in touch, and yeah, bye for now.